Welcome to Making Video Games with Python, Lesson 25. In this video, we're going to cover how to shoot in Delta Fighter and also explore a debugging feature, you'll notice that it's in quotations, that will allow us to test out code in level 2 without necessarily having to play out level 1. So let's get to it. So in order for us to kind of test something out in level 2, we kind of need to play out level 1. Now, level 1 takes anywhere from like 30 seconds to a minute to play out. And if we're testing something out in level 2, again, that can become very tedious to do. So one of the things that we could take advantage of is that if we simply hit the X button, notice it takes us to level 2. Again, this was discovered as a glitch in the game library, but then I quickly adapted it to be a feature in that, you know what, it makes sense. Now we have a quick way to get to level 2 without having to play out level 1. Now, obviously, once you put your game into production, you don't want your player to be bypassing your levels and then reaching the higher, harder levels without really going through the struggle of the earlier levels. So that glitch has been turned into a feature in that in the game object, there is a debug variable that automatically gets set to true. Again, because the assumption here is that most of the time you're going to spend developing, not necessarily actually deploying the final product. But when you go to deploy, you simply set this debug variable equal to false. And then what happens is that when a player tries to exit out, it just completely exits out the game. So again, we have control over that glitch now, which is why it becomes a feature. But for us right now, we're going to take that out because we're going to use the default of being able to debug. Now, in preparation for what we're going to do, which is shoot, we got to create another variable to represent our bullet. And our bullet's just the same plasma ball that we've collected, except that instead of calling it ammo as we were collecting it, we're going to call it bullet. Because we want this bullet to move on its own, we're going to give it a set speed of, let's say, 8 with an angle of 0. The other thing we need to do, similar to what we've done with the explosion, we don't want to see the bullet when the game first starts. So we're going to simply set this equal to false. All right, so a little bit of setup here. Now let's go to our level 2. Let's make sure that we put the bullet move so it moves on its own. Again, right now we're not going to see it because the bullet's not visible, which kind of leads me into the next part of this, which is, you know what? I'm trying to think. Maybe we'll just put it right underneath the logic here. So we have to have some mechanism for the hero to be able to shoot. Now, because we're using the keyboard, I think the obvious thing for us to try is for the user, the player, to press the spacebar. So let's do that. Now, there's a lot of things in common between the explosion that we did in level 1 and the bullet, in that the bullet needs to pop up in the same location as the hero. So just like we did with the explosion, we're going to move that bullet to the hero's location. Hero.x and then hero.y. The other thing we also need to do, because if you recall, we just turned the bullet invisible when we first created it. Well, now we got to make it visible again, or else it's going to move, but we're not going to see it. And let's give this a little try. See, oh, you know what? The other thing I wanted to do too, because we want to focus strictly on just the shooting, I'm going to take out the power-ups, the boss, and the alien. So that way we're not clouding the screen with a bunch of things, and we can really focus on the logic that needs to happen with shooting. So let's play this out. And let's just exit out of level 1. We are now in level 2, and there's our shooting. And notice that wherever I move, the bullet pops up in the same location. I'm able to hit the space bar, and then it kind of flies out on its own. There's a couple things that we need to fix here. I'm not sure if you kind of noticed, but I can hit the space bar at any point, and it kind of resets the position of the plasma ball back to the hero. I mean, I can even do something like that. That's not something we necessarily want to be able to do. We want to be able to shoot once and let the plasma ball kind of fly off on its own until it's available to shoot again. We'll talk about that here in a second. All right, so how do we handle this idea of allowing the plasma ball to kind of fly out on its own until we're able to shoot again? So we're going to be able to use the visibility property to kind of handle that. So notice right now, the first time we hit the space bar, the bullet's not visible. So I'm going to handle that. So we're going to say if the player presses the space bar and our bullet is not visible. So we're simply going to check to see false. All right, so that's going to work the first time around. Now, once we get into the if statement, notice we set it to true. Now, because we set it to true, the next time we press the space bar, well, guess what? This side of the and condition is going to be not true, so it's going to not work, allowing us not to be able to press the space bar again. So let's try that out. Let's get out of this. And here we are in level 2. I'm going to hit the space bar. And right now I'm trying to hit the space bar again, but it's not resetting. So I was able to shoot once. But now the issue is I would like to shoot again. Now, if we kind of look at our if statement, like I said, this now has become the gatekeeper. We need the bullet to be false again in order for us to shoot again. So the question is, when should the bullet be false again? So I think the nice thing to think about this is that when the bullet flies off the top of the screen, we're no longer seeing it in the game. So that might be a very convenient time for us to set the bullet's visibility back to false. So if you recall, as you go up, your values increase where the top of the screen in the game has a Y value of 0. So once the Y value becomes negative, that means it's off the screen on the top side, which will allow us to now set the bullet visibility back to false. Again, if this seems a little confusing, notice this is the gatekeeper right now. I can press the space bar as many times as I want. So as part of this AND statement, this side, you can kind of conceive it's always going to be true as long as I'm pressing the space bar, which means we have to ensure that this side of the AND statement is true. And what it's looking for is for the bullet to be false. So when the bullet is false, we are now allowed to press the space bar again to shoot again. And that's what we're doing with this if statement. That when the bullet flies off the top side of the screen, we're setting that bullet back to false. All right, let's see it work. All right, so we're in level 1. Let me move around. I'm going to shoot. I'm going to try to shoot again. But I'm not going to be able to shoot until the bullet is off the screen. So it also encourages the player to have some accuracy, realizing that there is a limit or a time limit to when they can shoot again. Now, the next thing we have to incorporate is the fact that right now I am shooting at will, as many plasma balls as I have. But if you recall, the whole purpose of level 1 was to collect plasma balls. So we have a certain number of plasma balls to use up. So every time the hero shoots, we should decrease the number of plasma balls. What that's also going to do is that the hero should only be able to shoot if they press a space bar, if the bullet is available, Again, I'm going to say it like that, even though this is the code for it. And if the hero has ammo to use. So if hero.ammo is greater than 0, if the plasma ball is available to be shot again, and if the person presses spacebar, that is the only time we'll be able to shoot. Now, luckily enough, when we start off the game, we start off with at least one bullet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to give us a couple more bullets here so we can play with. So let's do 3. And let's run this. All right, so notice the blue bar is a little bit more, and honestly, I can actually play level 1 a little bit more. So that should give me 5. Let me close it out, and let's test it out. So there's my first plasma ball, second, and again, I'm trying to shoot, but it won't let me shoot until it goes off the screen. And at this point, I am out of ammo, and I can't shoot anymore. All right, so let's take a quick look at the code. Again, there was a lot going on here. I would highly recommend, maybe watch it again and explore it. But the use of the visibility property definitely was very useful here, as we've seen in some other instances. Most of the other stuff is things that you've covered already. The key press, the move to, the decreasing of the ammo. All right, so let's go to our presentation and let's review what we've done. Oops, that's not the presentation. Yes, kill it. That's the presentation. All right, so in this video for lesson 25, we explored how to shoot, which again used some basic concepts such as key pressed, and then set speeds and move, and also move to invisibility to control when and where the bullet pops up. But we also had to use the visibility property to kind of control the fact that we only want to be able to shoot once during one fire of the bullet. Again, we'll explore more of the shooting when we deal with the aliens. We also had a chance to explore a debugging feature that allows us to quickly skip by level 1 by simply hitting the X button. If we want to turn off that debugging feature, we simply have to set game.debug equal to false. So hopefully you're excited to be able to shoot the aliens and the big boss, and enjoy.